Hi everyone, it's April. We're here to talk about books that I've DNF'd so far this year. And if you're wondering what DNF means, it means I did not finish them. I picked them up. I really gave it a good go in some cases. In some cases I was just like, absolutely not. I tried and then it just wasn't jiving with me. Like some people, and let me know in the comments below how you are with DNFs. Some people just don't do it. Some people are like, I have committed to this book because I have picked it up. And I commend those people if that's you. For me, I have so many books on my shelves. I want to read so many books that I feel like if I'm not feeling a book, I'm gonna let it go. You know, I'm gonna let it go. So let's start with The Royal Governess. This book I was so looking forward to. It's historical fiction and it follows Queen Elizabeth and Princess Margaret as children, and it follows the caregiver that came in to take care of them. She was the royal governess. She came from a poor background, and it follows her trying to take care of these very royal, very, well-off children. And I found it frustrating, the way that the governess spoke about the queen or the soon-to-be queen. I found it didn't make any sense. Like there were a lot of moments where she was shocked. Oh my goodness, Elizabeth can't go on, on the tube. She can't go on a train, a public train. Like why? Because she could be murdered. Okay, she could be killed. You have to protect her. Okay, I found that so frustrating the whole way through. I was like, why did they hire this incredibly unqualified person? Like, and why wasn't there training? It just didn't make any sense. So it actually made me end up feeling like the fictional account was improper, because surely someone would have sat down with the governess and said, here are the things you can and cannot do. Lord knows we have learned a lot about the rules and some of the strange rules surrounding the royal family. We've learned a lot with Harry and Meghan. So I just don't buy it. I didn't buy it and I found it frustrating. So I DNF'd it. I also DNF'd The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue. And this was a controversial one. Everyone seemed to love it. This is a book in which Addie LaRue makes like a deal with the devil, essentially, where she will go on living forever. However, the kind of catch is that she will never be remembered. Like she'll have a conversation with someone, it'll be great. Then she'll leave the room and that person will never remember who she was. So she has to introduce herself all over again. So it's a very difficult life. It's a really lonely life. But for me, with sci-fi like this, like time travel and this kind of thing, I just always have so many questions in my mind. For example, this was the thing that made me DNF it. So in present day, she meets a guy, she goes home with him, they sleep in his bed, and then when he wakes up in the morning, he doesn't remember her. And anyway, for me, it was like, well, didn't he ever go to the washroom? Like, how would it even be possible to spend an entire evening with someone without one of you going to the washroom? Like, I'm also one of those people, like, I go to a restaurant, I'm like, okay, I need to know where the washroom is. Like, maybe I'm just more, maybe too obsessed with my bodily functions, but that was my number one question. Like, surely that would happen? And then he would be like, what are you doing in my apartment? At that point, not the next morning? So I DNF'd it because I just had too many questions and I was too frustrated. Next up. Next is The Poppy War. Next is The Poppy War. Okay. This was my first real introduction to high fantasy other than The Lord of the Rings. which I read many years ago. The Poppy War is about a young girl who is in training to try to get into this very elite, very difficult to get into school, boarding school, and it's essentially trains people to fight. And you also learn about powers and magic and that kind of thing. So she goes to this school, and in the first half of the book, she's at the school. I really enjoyed the first half of the book. I was on board. I didn't mind that part at all. I loved learning about the training and the dynamics between all of the characters. And then very abruptly, in the second half of the book, war comes to this country very suddenly, and she's thrown into war. And all of the characters, or many of the characters that were so important in the first half of the book, just kind of disappear. And I really didn't care about the war at all. And I was like, this is the rest of the series is about this war. So I DNF'd it. I really went far into that book. Like, I think I read like 250 pages, something. Too much, okay? Too much to invest to then give up. But I just could not force myself to continue, so I didn't. Very similarly, the same kind of thing happened to me with The Shadow of the Wind. However, I wasn't enjoying it most of the way. So The Shadow of the Wind, beloved book. Like, so many people love this book. If you go on Goodreads and look up The Shadow of the Wind, well above 4 stars. And I don't understand why. So The Shadow of the Wind follows Daniel. He's a young boy. His father is in the book industry, and he says, Daniel, we're going to the Cemetery of Forgotten Books. You can pick any book here and keep it for yourself. And he chooses The Shadow of the Wind. He reads the story in like a day, falls in love with it, and it was like, right, I need to find the books by this author, like, and read more from this author. And he starts looking for them, and he finds out that all of those books are being destroyed. That someone is going out, finding the books written by this man who wrote The Shadow of the Wind, and destroying them all. And so Daniel goes on a quest to find out who's doing this and trying to put a stop to it. I didn't care about The Shadow of the Wind. I didn't end up caring about that mystery, and that's the whole point. So I found that very frustrating. Not that I believe in like burning books and destroying books in any way, shape, or form, but the author didn't give me reason enough to really care. I also really struggled with all of the romances in here, and also I found it to be quite sexist. The women in this book are highly sexualized by men, and I just found it slightly disrespectful. So I DNF'd it, and I got far into it. This was my book club book for getting hooked with it for the month of, I want to say June. I think it was June. No, I did not like it. And I tried to read all of the book club books, right? Because it's my book club. But no, I couldn't do it, guys. I could not do it. Next is Once Upon a River by Diane Setterfield. Now, I loved The 13th Tale by Diane Setterfield. Beautiful book, so atmospheric, and Once Upon a Time follows a small village, and a man comes running through the doors of a little pub in this village with a dead girl in his arms. He kind of faints, and the girl's dead, but only hours later she comes back to life. And the people in the town are trying to figure out what happened, who she is, and many of them are trying to claim her in one way or another. I found it really frustrating because this had so many characters, so many, like Dickens levels of characters, okay? Like, you need to write notes. There were a lot of characters, found that frustrating. The other thing I found very frustrating was the story, the plot didn't move forward because you were reading from this person's perspective and this person's perspective and this person's perspective, on and on and on about the same event. And nothing moved forward, and it drove me insane, and I just could not connect with it, so I DNF'd it, which is sad because it's a beautiful, beautiful book. Okay, last but not least is a book I was almost hesitant to bring this up because I think it was just like, I just didn't connect with this book. It's The Other Black Girl. This is a really big book this year, and it follows a Black woman who gets into the publishing industry, and she joins a publishing house, and she is the only Black woman there until another Black girl joins. First, she's quite excited and thinks, oh, this is going to be wonderful, and we connect really well. And then she starts receiving these very strange, slightly threatening notes on her desk that says, leave, like you can't stay here. I feel like I struggled with this because it's marketed as a thriller, and I didn't find it, I found it not thriller-esque enough. It absolutely wonderfully does explore racism within the publishing world, and how that works, and I thought that was great, but it's not, in my opinion, a thriller. I just wasn't connecting with it, so I stopped reading it. But that said, like, don't take that one from me. Like, definitely check it out yourself and see what you think. It just didn't work for me. Anyway, those are the books that I have DNF'd this year. I just tried and just couldn't do it. Let me know in the comments below what a book that you recently DNF'd was, and like why you DNF'd it, and did you feel better or worse? Because I feel like depending on your character, some people will feel better, some people will feel worse. It depends for me. I'd love to know what that book is. I'll chat with you soon. Bye, guys.